Hello, adventurers, and welcome back to the Legend of Kelamentura recap omnibus. This is part 5 of the omnibus recap. So if you want to know what's gone on before this, please go back and watch parts 1 to 4, or if you're just here for the crack, happy days. My name is David. I am the Dungeon Master and creative mind behind Legend of Kelamentura. And thank you for joining me on this. We're going to jump in with part 5. So, the end of the last recap, the party had recently learned that the Republican merchant, Jeremiah Doyle, turns out he was involved in some shady or less than legal dealings. There's something a bit off about him. They found proof that through coded letters and documentation that had been found in the office on his ship that he was a bit of a wrong'un. Upon learning this, the party left the tavern where they were, found the nobles in charge of the town, and told them, listen, we've learned this, we're going to go stop Doyle, try to stop him from leaving in case he's trying to flee. We want to question him because we think he's involved in some pretty dodgy dealings. At this time, I can't remember exactly when it was in the timeline, but we are briefly joined by a gnome wizard by the name of Sosij Siltweaver. Someone to join the party for a couple of sessions, and then they'll leave in a few sessions when we're on the ship again. But they join us around this time. Can't remember exactly how that happened. But they are with the party, which is important for upcoming events. So the tavern party at this point is Bjorn, our half-orc paladin sorcerer, Duchess, our high-elf cleric, Bart, or Baron, Bartholomew, I usually call him Bart, our Tiefling Bard, and Sosij Siltweaver, the gnome wizard. The party's rogue, Achilles 10-Step, tried to confront Doyle as he was making his way to the docks, but fell under some sort of a suggestive spell and is currently on a walk in the woods. And the other paladin in the party, Sir Lowe, is currently down at the docks, having just set fire to the rigging after his hiding spot was rumbled. And I think that's everyone. So, that's where we are. The party have left the tavern and are making their way down to the docks, accompanied by the nobles. As they begin to make their way down, they see flames ignite in the distance and smoke begin to billow up. Wondering what the hell is going on, they send a message to Lowe and Achilles to go, hey, we've seen smoke, where are you guys, what's going on? Lowe replies and says, yeah, I'm down at the docks. I'm having some fun, you might want to get down here. And they go, okay, we're going to head off that way. Achilles responds with a slightly dreamlike way that it's a lovely day for a walk, which they're very confused about and somewhat concerned. So the new party member, Bart, says, well, if you guys want to head down to the docks, I'll go try and find him. So he snaps his fingers and summons his Pegasus, Grimhoof, the 4th fastest horse in the world, and jumps on Grimhoof and takes off flying to go look for Achilles, who's not terribly difficult to spot. He is walking around wearing a bright red coat, so he's pretty easily spotted. Bart finds him, lands next to him, and with his arcane training as a bard, and spoilers, warlock, pretty quickly determines Achilles is under some sort of a charm spell or effect, and snaps him out of it. Upon snapping out of it, Achilles kind of shakes himself and goes, oh, that bastard, right, let's go get him. Jumps in the back of Grimhoof, pulls out the rifle that he had taken previously as a trophy, which he has now been trained with after the previous encounter with Baron Matthew Lee in the Ice Picks, and they zoom and take off. Meanwhile, Lowe is still down at the docks, and at this moment in time, the guards are trying to get at him, but he is using Leomund's tiny hut. He was using it previously to blend into the shadows, but now this is blazing white and acting as a beacon. And the guards of the ship, the crew of the ship, are trying to attack him, but cannot. They can't get through Leomund's tiny hut, keeping them occupied. Meanwhile, the armored figure has turned and is using create water to summon a column of water up out to douse the flames. Bjorn, Duchess, and Sosij have taken off running at this point, and they are just trying to pelt down the road. Bjorn actually summons his own steed, Mandorb, and him and Duchess jump aboard and take off at a full gallop to the docks. Around this time, Achilles and Bart, who are flying in at a full dash, get within rifle range, and Achilles begins to rain fire down upon the crew of the Brass Bell, and particularly the large armoured figure who was summoned in a wall of water. This results in an exchange of volley fire between the crew and the flying Bart and Achilles, who thankfully managed to remain aloft despite the crew targeting the Pegasus. They weren't quite able to do enough damage to bring the Pegasus down, luckily for them. But around this, when this volley fire is happening, Duchess and Bjorn charge down to where the Brass Bell is berthed, seeing the smoke, hearing the gunfire. They leap over the barriers, and as they do so, Bjorn throws a fireball at the crew, which are harassing Lowe. It incinerates one of them, and the other one is dispatched by Lowe pretty quickly afterwards. So, the party then begins a very fraught and quite deadly encounter for the crew of the Brass Bell, because the crew are beginning to drop like flies. They begin to retreat onto the ship. Mages begin to come out. Riflemen become the crew is kind of caught unawares, and the party's kind of coming in and beginning to encroach. And in all the chaos and in all the combat and noise, Jeremiah Doyle comes up out of the hold, out of his office, and goes, "What the hell's going on?" Sees all the chaos, and is almost immediately hit with an insect plague from Duchess, which hits him and a number of the crew. But around this time, Doyle is taken in the chaos and is seeing that there's a good 5 or 6 crew members dead on the docks. And after this insect plague, Doyle snaps. Doyle loses his cool. The party see from within the insect plague this black pulse of necrotic energy. And soon after Doyle emerges from the top of the insect plague, black wings unfurled from his back, his face this absolute mask of fury and rage. And he bellows out to the party, goes, "Y'all call yourselves heroes? You call yourselves heroes? Look at all the dead people. Look at all the people you've slaughtered here today. You call yourselves heroes? Motherfucker." He loses his absolute shit. They have never seen Doyle this angry before. The mask is completely gone. And he says, "There's a lot of bodies on my side. Let's even the goddamn score." And with that, he twin power word kills Bjorn and Achilles. And with 2 party members dropped, the party realize Doyle's much more powerful than we thought. And the mounting fire from the crew forces them to hold. And in this brief moment, Doyle sees his initiative and goes, "Right, let's get the fuck out of here." The crew run back up, cut the ropes, don't even bother untying them. The ship, instead of sailing, takes flight and begins to fly away. In this brief reprieve, Duchess runs over to Bjorn. Previously, the party had bought revivified diamonds, which they wear as pendants. So the Duchess ran over to Bjorn, revived him. He was brought back, and seeing the ship flying away, was initially going, "Doyle's getting away. We need to stop him." And then looks around and realizes what happened. And then looks around and sees Achilles also lying dead on the ground. Duchess approaches Achilles and looks for his revivified diamond, but cannot find it. Cursing, Duchess goes into her own spell components, pulls out another diamond that she has spare, and places under the chest of Achilles, casts Revivify, but the spell fails as the soul of Achilles' 10-step was not willing to return. And as the party are sat on the docks processing what's just happened, their friend has just died. Their magic's failed. Bart and Sosij, the 2 newest party members, seeing this, they go, "Well, we need to do something." Bart throws up his hand and uses a wall of force, kind of as a scoop, and manages to rip one of the broomstone chunks off the side of the Brass Bell, causes the ship to lurch heavily, and the crew in the back, armed with rifles, just rain down a volley upon Bart, and then Jeremiah Doyle plucks one of the moat, basically does a crown of stars, throws a moat down, and knocks Bart unconscious. He turns to leave, and Sosij Siltweaver steps forth, and he does a... Oh god, I don't know what level it was. I'm going to say it was like a 7th level, 6th or 7th level Psychic Lance, 9d6, and rolls max damage on Jeremiah Doyle. That's important for later. 54 points of psychic damage, and the crew fire down at Sosij, who drops unconscious from the attack. And with that final exchange, the docks finally go quiet, and the brass bell sails off at a rapid speed, leaving the scallybags on the docks to process what has just happened. As they process this, the nobles and town guard approach, wonder what the hell is going on. We just heard gunfire. What the hell happened? The nobles are debriefed, and the party are excused, if you will. They're kind of, okay, fine, go take your friend, say goodbye. We'll deal with this. So Achilles is brought to the temple, his body is prepared, and the party kind of process and say their goodbyes to all of this. Say their goodbyes to their friend. That night, drink themselves into a stupor in the tavern. The next morning, they return to the temple once more, collect their friend's body, and having the previous night after Achilles has fallen, they sent word for Lorilla and Titus to return to Iceborne to say their goodbyes, which they did. And Titus and Lorilla then set off on a pilgrimage across the country to return the body of Achilles Tenstep to his home of Storm's End. And with Achilles Tenstep sent on his final journey, the messenger is sent for the party who were summoned to the castle, the Glacial Keep, for an audience with Desmond Thrain, Lord Iceborne. Brought to an audience in his private quarters, Desmond tells the party that after they left yesterday, the guards were summoned in a full search of the entire berth, all the warehouses, the office, everything was searched, and the guards actually managed to find barrels and boxes that had been on in the manifestos, and hidden in the bottom, hidden within false bottoms on many of these barrels and crates were a significant quantity of sood and other illicit materials. So, and these barrels were linked to a manifesto which proved that Doyle was smuggling. Doyle was a smuggler. He had been brought these things to Iceborne. And with all this, with the information gathered and with what the party had told them previously, Conrad and Colette, Desmond's mother and stepfather, returned to the capital, sought an audience with the council, told them what happened, and then summoned the ambassador for the Republic of Amberino. The council and the embassy had a conversation, during which it was revealed that the Senate of the Republic, had been doing their own investigations into Jeremiah Doyle. There had been allegations brought to them from within their own borders. So hearing this from the Council of Mentura there as well, while it is tragic that Republican lives blood was spilt on your own soil, if you assist us with our investigations, we're willing to overlook that so long as you help us with the investigation. Will not bring any charges against the Scallybags. So an international incident is avoided, and the party are kind of told, well, yeah, just tell that's what happened. And with respect to the smuggling, now that with the proof of smuggling and speaking with the ambassadors, a capture or kill warrant has been issued across the globe of Kelamentura for Jeremiah Doyle. With this crumb of comfort, the party kind of then begin to relax with Desmond Thrain, who begins to speak, and they kind of have this sort of reminiscing and, well, planning of your next steps, and, well, you're going to head off north now. You're going to try and track down the Defiant. Oh yeah, we've got a ship. We're going to leave tomorrow, the day after, and go hunt down this Defiant. They are interrupted by the manservant Jeffries, who tells them that there is a bell ringing in the crypts beneath the castle. The party go to investigate and find a 500-year-old undead fire genasi by the name of Dh'Nesko, who previously he was a blood hunter and was a member of an organization called the First Watch. Basically, it's kind of the Kelamenturian version of the Witchers / the Spartan program, and yeah, that's who Dh'Nesko is. Cool way to introduce Achilles' player's new character. While returning from the crypts, the party takes a detour through a necromancer's lair, which was what actually woke Dh'Nesko in the first place. But having made their way through the crypts of the castle, they return to the surface, having slain necromancers. I'm saying the necromancer and the lackeys, and negotiating a number of traps that have been set, and gathering their supplies, bid adieu to Desmond Thrain and begin the journey north to the frozen wastes. Along the way, the party is beset. The party does come under attack from an adult white dragon at one point, whose territory they pass through. The dragon itself bearing signs of injury from previous fight. And along the way, they rescue a fur-clad explorer who reveals himself to be a citizen of the Salazan dynasty. He was part of an expedition, and while trekking, they were beset by a number of individuals who killed or captured the rest of his friends. He managed to flee. Excuse me. He managed to flee by jumping onto a floating chunk of ice that was in the river, and has been there for the last several days. Excuse me. While doing so, and the party, once they get these questions and do some zone of truth and some other insight checks, they figure out that he is telling the truth. And on the journey, which takes about a week, the party does indulge in some downtime activities. Duchess leans into her creative side and gains the chef feat. Lowe spends the journey in prayer to his god Elistre, and after some prayer does receive a blessing, a combat blessing, so he can deal a bit of extra damage. Bjorn and Bart spend the time sparring with each other, with Bjorn intending to get Bart, more proficient in combat to help him use a shield, and also as in a way to get Bjorn used to wielding two weapons as opposed to sword, a hammer, and shield, which he'd been using previously. So they spend a bit of time bonding, and Ariadnae helps the crew as best she can and learns how to sail and what have you. On the journey, and during this journey, actually, Bjorn receives his gift from Matthew Lee. He had made the journey and had crafted, as at Bjorn's request, a sort of a heavy double-barreled grapple rifle, as a double-barreled over-under rifle that could also shoot a grappling hook. Matthew Lee was able to create this, and with the help of residents of Lowe's village, use it by use of teleportation, and because I'm the dungeon master, that's why I got the rifle to Bjorn. So after all this, and also Dh'Nesko went off and made some uses alchemical supplies to craft a couple of gifts for the party. They use gifts in quotes because there were some sort of symbiotic weird fish things which are cursed and can't actually be removed. So you can see where I use gifts in quotes. And as they approach the end of the journey, after having indulged in their downtime activities and some time bonding with each other, on the final night of the voyage, Ariadnae receives a vision. She herself is an astral monk, and her colony is quite tied to the astral sea, and there's a lot of monkish goings on. She herself had previously suffered a schism of sorts and had temporarily lost her connection to the Astral Sea the previous winter, which disturbed her a lot, but she hadn't really spoken of it. But this had been noticed by an organization who lived within the Astral Sea called the Lowe Temple. One of the individuals spoke with Ariadnae and said, apologize for the intrusion, but we are aware of what happened to you the previous winter. We've recently found another individual who was also schismed. Basically tells them that, yeah, we've spoken with them. Here's all the details. Gives them a scroll with information, which is kind of a later game plot hook that I'm setting up already, but ties into Ariadna's backstory. That night, so the next day, the party arrives at the outpost where the Defiant had gone to previously, which they find destroyed. Now, they knew it was going to be destroyed because they had spoken with the crew previously and learned this outpost had been ruined. But within the investigations, they determined that the outpost had been attacked by some sort of dragon because they were able to find scorch marks and melted stone. Going, yeah, this is a dragon attack, which scares them a little, which puts them on edge, but they realize that the dragon is no longer around. However, there are a number of salamanders who have set up residence and don't take too kindly to the party showing up and ruining their good thing. But with that, at that moment, also, I am talking while I'm doing this recap, but I am looking back. Another thing that happened was that at one point during the journey, they had found a body floating in the waters, and that body turned out to be floating on some wreckage. And the wreckage they were able to determine because of a nameplate was the icebreaker ship, the Dragon Tortle, which they knew had been used to transport the Defiant up back and forth. And strapped to a chunk of the wreckage, they found the body of a black dragonborn, who was the brother of Mehan, the Creeve's brother, was one of the officers on board the party ship. The party were able to bring them back to life, and who told them that the Dragon Turtle had been returning, but the ship had been attacked by cultists and a dragon, along with the demonic forces, and the ship had been sundered. So the party managed to save the life of men, and kind of realizing that, yeah, there's this cult don't play effectively. But after reaching the outpost, the crew of the Dragon Turtle is thanked for the crew of the Dragon Turtle is thanked for you guys were here. Thank you very much. They head on to carry on with their supply run because they are heading further up the coast. The party begin their journey north. Now they know where the outpost. There was the outpost here. There was a dig site, which they know this dig site is the one where the Defiant were going. Because when they get to when the ship lands, they search the office and they do find more records, which kind of confirm to them, yes, this is where the Defiant were going. And leads them, and they find a map for a dig site, which, putting the pieces together, that's where they're going. So they make their way, and along their journey, on Pegasus back, which significantly shortened the travel time, they have an encounter with some frost worms as they make camp one night, uncover an ancient temple which revealed some sort of a unionized worship between the two pantheons of gods, the Pure Ones and the Scourge, which sits at odds with what the current religious beliefs of most of the party being, because these two pantheons are at odds with each other. And yeah, and also at that temple, they uncover a long skeletonized individual who they speak with dead on, who reveals himself to be a member of a group called the Enlightened. They were a very old heretical order, if you will, who worshipped both pantheons and kind of were like, yeah, we don't really care that you guys call them Pure Ones and Scourge. We just call them the gods. We're not afraid to worship both. They weren't really liked by either side because of that, but they were bestowed gifts because they worship both sides. They got the best of both worlds, if you will. After that encounter and the name Enlightened, Bjorn realizes he has some hidden memories within his mind. The name Enlightened kind of awakens something in the back of his mind. And he uncovers a repressed memory, but memory that wasn't repressed by him, but by someone else. Upon diving into the memory, he discovers that, while he knew he was orphaned, his mother and father were killed, and he was taken in by the Paladin Order of the Cleansing Hand that he's a member of. He didn't know the exact what exactly happened. But it turns out that his mother and father were killed by his father figure within the order, one brother Abel, who cut down his mother and slaughtered his father in front of him, and then kind of brought him into the order as a spoil of war, if you will. Which, upon that revelation, Bjorn tears his tabard and is now a bit of an emotional loose cannon, shall we say. He hasn't quite got the resolution he's wanted from that just yet. But realizing how unhinged Bjorn is, the party presses on and arrives at the dig site. The Delve Within do battle with polar bears and some demons and cultists who seem to be left in some sort of a rearguard formation. They do find a number of magical items and loot as they progress through the dig site. And excuse me. As they go through make their way through the digs. And at this point, I've reached the end of my notes, my quest log, so I'm going off memory at this point. So this is where things make it a little bit sketchy. But thankfully, these are the most recent sessions. So, at one point during the dig site, the party come across a bit of a necromantic laboratory where there's sort of anatomical textbooks, and they do battle with this hideous, stitched together demonic flesh golem, which is deeply unsettling. What was more unsettling for Ariadnae was in that laboratory she finds a pair of arms that belong to someone that is a member of her village. The arms have been torn from the body, but the arms have these beautiful blue and silver silken wraps, which as Ariadnae puts her hands forth, the wraps extend towards her, and she takes these wraps to herself, which they are deeply religious and important artifacts for her people. So she now has these. Uses them to great effect to dispatch this flesh golem. After which, and then they continue up through the dig site, navigating the maze. I said the maze. Following the corridors, come across yet more cultists who are in a semi-prepared ambush. And they come across a temple to the Scourge Gods that has been built within a room within the dig site. And it bears a number of altars, an altar to each member of the Scourge Gods. And they learn the name of each of the Scourge Gods, which I'm not going to rattle off here because I don't have the text open. But among that, they do see the name Artur, which makes them question Artur's position within the Pantheon. But after this, they draw ever closer to the end of the dig site and the Undying Prince's laboratory. Before they are able to arrive, they have a conjured apparition of the Lich, who congratulates them for making their way thus far into the dig site. He's quite impressed they've made it this far, and he invites them to come have a chat. The party kind of a bit apprehensive, but progress further. And in the next chamber, find a massive storage room, which looks to have been cleared out. There are no magical items left, apart from a chest which contains robes of the Archmagi, and hidden chambers which revealed belts, sort of magical belts and magical daggers. A few not mundane, but a few lower level magical items apart from the robes, which are pretty nice. And as they progress through the storage chamber, they come across a portable teleportation circle which had been set up. The circle can still be used, but they don't know how to activate it. But when they get to that circle, they find a chest. And when they open it, they see stuck to the lid of the chest is a note. A note written by Jeremiah Doyle, ordering that the dig site be cleared out and volunteers for a rearguard action for rearguard were requested, and surviving members could split this pay chest. So the party now know that they're chasing Doyle. They are on his tail. He has been here within the last week. But upon learning this, they progress to the final level and uncover a couple of rooms. One of which is a bed chamber. It looked to be used, which is a bed chamber which had a couple of jeweler's tools and another teardrop ruby necklace, which the party take. They find some sort of an office which has the Lich's notebook and diary, which the party are able to read through and learn what the Lich has been up to since he's been revived, since he was brought back to his full Lich self. And another room which just contains a pile of furs that have been just built into like this weird nest, which makes the party concerned as to what else might be here. But before they enter the laboratory of the Undying Prince, they see these strange, evil metallic doors. Dh'Nesko approaches these doors, places his hand upon it to try and open it, and as he does so, is spiritually transported to the throne room of Asmodeus within the Nine Hells. Asmodeus then takes an interest in Dh'Nesko and says, "Oh, how did you get here?" There's a bit of a conversation. You came from the Undying Prince. Tell him I say hello, and sends him back. They investigate the doors. Unaware of what has happened with Dh'Nesko, the rest of the party kind of inspect the doors and are able to determine that they are some sort of a soul vortex. This deeply evil thing which shouldn't exist outside of the hells, but here it is. But managing to open the doors, the party push through, enter into the Lich's laboratory, and find the Undying Prince working in the room alongside his half woman, half snake bodyguard. And the two of them are more open to conversation than anything else. The Undying Prince wishes to parley with them before anything happens. The party tentatively agree, and the Undying Prince informs them that I want you to help me kill Jeremiah Doyle. Intrigued by this, the party listen, saying that Jeremiah has some plans at work that are going to upset my own plans, and I don't really want. He's got some shit planned that I don't like. It's going to upset the Cosmic Apple Cart. I'd rather he didn't do it, but I'm willing to help you guys if you want to help me. Intrigued by this, they ask him what they need. The prince then tells them that he entered into a pact with Asmodeus millennia ago. The terms of which were that in exchange for 10,000 souls, Asmodeus would give the Lich something he needed or wanted. The party briefly consider this, but 10,000 souls is too steep a price for them. Bjorn draws his rifle and fires. And that's where we're going to end part 5 of the recap. I look forward to seeing you guys in part 6. Thank you very much for watching, guys. See you in the next part.